February 14, 2023, the tipping point. Just as a matter of note with concerning what we see unfolding in the earth, the present conflict of Russia and the Ukraine represents a cleansing of the earth which has begun. This has been in the process now for a year. The countries of China and North Korea and Venezuela are not mentioned, are not a part of the immediate domino effect that's unfolding. But the main issue that will follow this present conflict of Russia will be the Middle East. Russia presently is one of the major chess pieces on this chessboard. And we will see what will materialize next from the Middle East. It's all about the Father's judgments in the earth and the purging of the earth. And it's all tied together, manifesting of the sons of God, which is what we're looking to see manifest now. To repeat, the war that is presently going on is part of the movement of the earth that has begun. And no mystery, there's a great deal of humanity that will perish during the time coming. Not due to the evil rampant in the earth, as much as it is the cleansing of God, which has always been a part of the prophecy of the time of the end. And we will see a great deal more. For we stepped into a window of time that can be counted in a matter of months as far as the future of the human race as a whole, which is being affected not only with the conflicts that are unfolding, but with the pollution in the earth, whether it's the waters, the food, the skies. I know that in the book of Revelation it talks about how the earth opened up to help the woman which fled from the enemy. I think it's Revelation, 12 or 13, somewhere in there. And the flood that's been coming out of the mouth of the dragon has been greater and greater over the past decade or two. That the earth itself has hit a point of critical mass in and of itself, in its ability to absorb that which is spewed forth from the mouth of the dragon. I don't know that we've looked at it in that context before. There's all these areas of pollution and a lot of things that are happening in the earth. And the earth is going through tremendous changes. Whether it's, the animals becoming extinct. There's just a number of things. And in its own way, the earth itself has hit a point where it's come to the full. And I don't think there is a reversal that can be achieved that will keep the earth off of the course of destruction that it has been placed in. The second book, we have a chapter called Critical Mass, which I'm going to read from. It references both the timeline that we've come to as a whole, but also very specifically this window of time that we have moved into in the past year or so, that is now accelerating, and the judgments are unfolding. One can get distracted with issues and tangents that are unfolding, but there is no doubt that these are all part of God's judgments and part of the cleansing of the earth that is happening. And I anticipate in the very short term before us that it will be like nothing we have ever known or experienced before. The term critical mass is a term that was coined out of the World War II era of the creation of the atomic bomb. Up until that point, there really wasn't a use of this term. It was created, born out of what they were experiencing in the creation of the bomb. And it was used to define the point at which one last segment of matter literally would push the threshold, and you would have a nuclear reaction. You could also say a tipping point, where it goes beyond what can be maintained, and just go, you go right into the cause and effect. The term critical mass describes the time of the earth to which we have come. We can liken this to the final stages of the birthing of a child, for there comes that time when the baby's head begins to crown. That would be a time of critical mass, where you have stepped beyond the threshold and that baby has to come now. And this is what we're experiencing. This is what is unfolding. At times it can be difficult to relate to the day-to-day affairs and put it in that context, because it still seems that there are issues that are being focused on, problems, things that seem to be irrelevant, but they're not, because it's all part of this process of the birthing of the sons. For the past couple of years, the word has been coming at an increased rate, expressing an urgency that it's time for the sons of God to manifest. And we've known this for some time, that we were approaching a point in which we would see many doors close. And not begin to close, but I mean close. The doors have been in the process of closing over these past 10 years. That people have not been aware of the critical time in the earth that we've come to. But we have been in a time that God has begun to progressively close the doors that have been held open. A lot of this can be referenced with the wise and foolish virgins and the ill preparation of the foolish when those doors literally close. And to a large degree we're facing some of that concerning those that have been called to this first wave of transition. And the door that we're speaking of is the grace to become, a door open to see the transformation of the sons. Those who've been called to sonship, many have not been aware of this time of his visitation in the earth. We know there's been a spirit of slumber in the land. The foolish have fallen asleep, lulled by the world they once separated themselves from. We've stepped beyond what we would call a tipping point. We've stepped beyond critical mass. The events now unfolding are out of the control of the powers of this age. And that's important to understand. The events are beginning to unfold as a domino, falls one after another, and that was the word. Once the first domino is pushed over, then we would begin to see a rapid succession of events in the earth that would happen. One domino after another domino after another domino. That's what we're seeing unfold now. Whether we've been able to, like I said, put it in context and not look at it as a number of unrelated events happening globally that are going on, or within the lives personally of the sons. Excuse me. But what we see unfolding is the domino effect. And the events, as we said, are out of the control of the powers of this age. In many ways, there's a lot of scrambling going on in the back room of the dark and evil controllers of this age, scrambling to find a way to continue to manipulate and direct the direction of mankind. There's been a lot that has been put into play over the last decade or two that is beginning to manifest with, situations, whether it's COVID or other types of events, of which we will see more. These things weren't just randomly generated in the past year or two. They've been in the hopper for a very long time. The Nephilim and the dark ones in the earth may scramble to grab the reins on what they see perishing, but it's too late. They've sat in the heavens and scoffed at the Lord. They've laughed in derision, for they thought God would never bring retribution or judgment upon them. But the time has come, and the process of exponential acceleration has begun. We have stepped across a threshold, and there is no turning back to what we have known of life on this planet ever again. Daniel 2:34, quote, You continued looking until a stone was cut out without hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron and the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed all at the same time and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that not a trace was found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the entire earth. This is happening. This is happening, and it's so important that we see everything in their proper context of what really is unfolding, and not get too distracted with the flailing of the enemy as the darkness continues to be exposed. We will begin to find even more implosion after implosion of the realities that we have seen about us, whether governments, political systems, economies, geophysical changes. Nothing will be the same, and nothing will be left untouched, for the stone cut out of the mountain has hit the image at its feet, and it has begun to crumble. If you look about you, you see what's happening. That was a word that came about 3 or 4 years ago at a Feast of Tabernacles, I recall. And it was from that point that the Lord spoke, we would begin to see things descend into chaos, and the violence and murder and many other events would begin to just unfold. And we have seen that. We have seen humanity descending more and more deeply into chaos. The monetary system as we know it, they're still keeping propped up, but its demise is only a matter of time. And the order and structure that has been so carefully put in place by the Nephilim will fail. The only solution is to become the sons of God, fulfilling your destiny. A word recently came that we need to get in sync with ourselves. And we've spoken about feeling, there are times when you can feel out of sync. You feel like your whole being is not quite in focus. It's hard to imagine, but it's not just the focus of what you're looking at, but your frequency or vibration. Everything is changing. You are changing. But you're not quite in focus yet. You're not quite in sync yet. And it can be very uncomfortable because things don't work the same as they did a month ago or 2 months ago or 6 months ago. Everything kind of affects you differently all of a sudden. Even your lifestyle, even how you eat, just everything is just a bit out of sync. I don't know if you've thought about that, but it's like we know that we're a triune being. We know that we live on, this level. We live in the Spirit. We know that there is a shift happening where we are to lay aside the old, put on the new. We know that we're being clothed from on high. We don't know if that's a process or if that's something that's just going to happen, or if it's both a process and a positioning, and then it happens. But we're in this mode, and so it's hard to explain. Maybe you can visualize as a human being being out of sync. Your vibration is shifting, but it's not there yet. It's like tuning on a radio, and you're trying to find the frequency to dial in a station, and you're almost there, but you're not there. It's just not quite in sync yet. And as the sons of God, we're not quite in sync yet, because it involves an absolute deep change of all that we are into something entirely new. With every breath that we take, every step that we make, we're continuing to bring a shift in the spirit world, and the balance of power is changing. This out of sync, in between phases. So that's another word, phase. I'm kind of in phase, but I'm kind of out of phase. You should be able to relate to that. Such an anointing from the Lord here as I'm speaking. Lord, we're in phase, but we're out of phase. And yet I know that we're in sync, but we're out of sync. But we're coming into a complete syncing up with the Lord Jesus Christ. Really. And in that process, we are syncing up with our destiny, with our calling, with who we truly, really are. That's why this is such an interesting change. Because we're in this phasing process, and you can misread the signals, and you can wonder, okay, well, why could I do this and I can't do this before I could do this? Yeah, it gets very personal, because we're in transition. How long have we said that? We're in transition. We're in transition. Well, what does it mean to be in transition? Up until now, I don't know that I could have explained it quite this way. Because you could say, well, I'm in transition. Okay, that's fine. I believe you. How do you quantify it? How do you measure it? What does it mean? Well, I could say this transition has to do with syncing up with you and the Lord and your calling and your destiny. And so we're in between right now. We're not quite synced up yet. It's just like our vibration is not quite there yet. We're just it's a little gray. It's a little hazy. That's about the closest we can say when someone says, well, you're in transition. Okay, where are you going? All right. So explain to me the transition. Well, all I can say is that We're in between here and there. And we're syncing up, but we're not really synced up yet. And we're in between. One thing that we can't lose sight of, and we've said this many times over the years and in every one of the books, that what is the dynamic of what is happening to the sons? How does it translate? What does it translate to? And I would say it's like the principle of the pebble cast into the water. Because every change that's happening now to us is radiating out and affecting things on every level of existence. I know that might be hard to believe, or maybe it's easy to believe, but I mean to really, get it, because our change is changing everything. As we change, we're changing the entire world. We're changing the Father's kingdom. We're changing, everything. That's a monumental word. A lot of people would scoff at that and say, yeah, show me. Prove it to me. No, I can't. But I know that as we change, everything changes. As we break forth, so the kingdom breaks forth. And that was one of the words. And why is that? Because it comes down to the very basic principle of God in us and our oneness with the Father, our oneness with the Lord. And no one can explain that. It's something that you experience and you know. Deeply know. And if the Father reveals it to someone else, that's the only way that they would even have a clue. And it's that oneness that is being deeply established that is the dynamic that's affecting everything, because it's our change. We've definitely crossed the tipping point. We've definitely come to the time of critical mass, which really speaks of not only what we were speaking of here as far as what's going on in the earth and the judgments and the cleansing, but it also, in its own unique way, speaks of the changes happening in the sons of God. The birthing of the sons, the crowning of the baby has begun. And we've stepped beyond the tipping point. There's only one thing set before us, and that is the completion of this birthing of sonship now. That is where we are. That is what is happening. And every birth pang, every push in the Spirit is affecting the world, is affecting the heavens. The Lord will continue to show us how to connect the dots and put it in proper perspective. Because the birthing of the sons, the travail of the sons, the whole process of bringing to birth, every push is causing a reaction in the realm of spirit as the sons begin to manifest. And that's what this is all about. This is why we're here. There is no other reason. For this reason we have been brought forth, to manifest sonship in the flesh on this side of the veil. And we know that it's all tied together. The Father's judgment, the Father's cleansing of the earth, and the birthing of the sons of God. Amen.